How's it going, folks? Welcome to the Coach's Corner here at Benchwarmers in Tiffin. Nate Mullins, I'm your host. I'm joined by the Wizard, Greg Kinn, on the ones and twos. And tonight we have a special guest joining us at the restaurant. This is Tiffin Columbian head football coach Judd Lutz. How we doing, Coach?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
We're doing great. Let's get your mic up just a little bit. That way we can pick you up a little bit. There we go.
Better?
Yeah, much better.
Awesome.
All right, so, Coach, we got a lot to talk about this week. We're past the midseason point now. It's into that stretch run. You got 4 games left in the regular season, and it's time to start getting primed up for the playoffs. But before you start thinking about playoffs, you got a lot of things in front of you that you still got to take care of. And everything that you want is still right in front of you. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Everything you set out, all the goals that you set out at the beginning of the season, everything is still right there in front of you. Talk about just your impression on the season so far as we enter Week 7.
Obviously got through, we call it preseason, and then, portion of your non-league schedule, and we wrapped that up just prior to last week's game, and then kicked off, obviously, the first game of the conference against Sandusky and found a way to get it done and get a win. So been some ups and downs for sure, quality opponents, and so peeled back the onion in a lot of ways on the team and got to see some really good things, got to see some things we got to work on and get better at, whether it's personnel, whether it's X's and O's and scheme, or, back to fundamentals and some things, but so far, happy with where we're at, but at the same point, not satisfied. We got to get better in a number of ways and a number of things if we want to get to be where we want to be. And obviously, we're going to have a number of quality opponents coming up that we need to be prepared for and ready to execute it against.
Well, I'm telling you what, Coach, this Friday is one of the most unique scenarios I've ever been a part of as a broadcaster. Usually when I broadcast 2 straight games in a row, it's some kind of a basketball regional tournament somewhere, and a couple of local teams are, hey, they're both there, so let's cover both games. Mm-hmm. I have never covered 2 football games in one night, ever, as a broadcaster. This is unique. Talk about what went into this. Like, when did this come about? Obviously, you both kind of had a home game scheduled for this weekend, so maybe it was something that out of necessity, but was this something that maybe was tossed around before it became a necessity?
Very long story short, it was an inherited problem, and this was the solution. Okay. So I'm down for it. It's whatever. Clyde agreed to it, so we're excited to play anybody, anytime, anywhere. We talk about that all the time with the team. It just, usually means it's 7 o'clock on a Friday night. And, but our mantra is anybody, anywhere, anytime. And, usually that's Friday nights or whatever, but situations present itself and changed, and so we're taking advantage of it, and I think it's going to be a great event for the community, not only just the Tiffin community with Calvert and Columbian playing the same night and same venue, but also for Columbian and Clyde and a number of kind of fundraisers they have going on for family in need there too, so wrapping their community into it, because obviously they're being tremendous supporters of doing this, because it wouldn't be easy to be a visiting team on a 4:30 kick on a Friday night, and they're making the most of it. So one thing coming out of 2020 that I learned, like, you're thankful to play, thankful to play and grateful to play, and so you can complain about breaking of tradition or changing of itineraries, but it's like, get over yourself. Like we're thankful to play. I'm thankful for the opportunity, and we're excited.
That's a good way to look at it. Thankful to play. I like that. Just put aside all the complaining, all the noise. Just say, we are thankful to be able to play this game. That's a great viewpoint to have. I was talking with Zach Baker a little bit after the Saturday scoreboard this last Saturday, and he said, there were coaches that complained when the start time for football games was moved from 7:30 to 7 o'clock because it was an extra half hour of sun that these kids were going to have to play in. Is there any kind of consideration to maybe extra hydration this week because of the fact that it's only going to be 76, but it's going to be sunny on Friday. Mm-hmm. That is, if the weather holds out like it's supposed to. Was there any kind of consideration to maybe extra hydration throughout the week because of those extra, 3 hours in the sun? You're going to be playing the entire game in the sunlight.
Yeah. There's always an emphasis, to be honest with you, on hydration, nutrition, rest, recovery, and taking care of our bodies, getting in the ice baths and stuff like that throughout the course of the season, because sometimes, kids, when the weather starts getting cooler, they out of sight, out of mind as far as the hydration goes, but that's when you have to, because you can kind of slowly get into that dehydration process, and so we're always stressing it. As for the sun thing, the biggest impact, to be honest with you, is just the angle of the sun, and sadly our home advantage, and how our stadium faces the home side looks directly into it. And so when we're ready to break ground on a new home side so that we can sit with the sun at our backs here in hopefully a couple of years. And, so if you're out there with millions of dollars and would like to donate towards the Frost Countdown renovations to make that happen, send somebody an email. But yeah, the interesting thing is, though, like we're practicing, every day, usually at that 3 o'clock start time,
right?
Anyways, and so we're used to the sun being up. We're used to it impacting kind of the angle, but both teams are going to have to play through it and overcome. So it's not like it's only affecting us and not them. It is what it is, and so unique, but at the same point, we're happy to play, and it sounds like it's going to be a clear night, which greedily, I would like maybe an overcast day so the sun wouldn't be a factor, but at the same point, I'd rather have dry too. So we'll see. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, so with this game, obviously there's some new preparations that you have to think about. What goes into, like, do they have to get out of school early for this? Like, obviously, they normally would get out a little bit early to get ready for a football game, but what's the plan for this Friday for the students that have to leave? Obviously, the band's involved, the football team, everybody that's involved with this. Is this going to be an early dismissal so that some of these students can get ready for this? Because 4:30 start time, I mean,
that gets on
that's quick.
Right. Yeah, you kind of just do the math to keep the pregame itinerary as normal as possible. And so in any home game, we're doing a walkthrough at a certain time, which is 3 hours prior to kickoff. So it's usually a 4 o'clock walkthrough for us. And then we go to the weight room and we get a pregame lift in based on, what level you're kind of participating. The older guys get much more of just to wake up the nervous system, lower impact, certain program. And then obviously the younger guys are getting a little bit more of an intense lift because it's got to be they're still in growing season for them and their bodies and everything. And so you just, whenever you typically start, you rewind that clock and try to get, administrative support to allow you, you'd have to get out of school early. And so we have kids, think about, we're the education community, right? So we don't have kids just at Columbian High School. We have kids at Tiffin University. We have kids at Heidelberg. We have kids at Sentinel. We have kids at Vanguard. We have kids coming from anywhere and everywhere. So it's not just like, thankfully, Dave Alvarado, the high school principal at Columbian, our superintendent and assistant superintendent, athletic director, of course, like they're behind it, but you also now need to get permission and, the support from all these other entities as well. So luckily, we have really good kids. And with that usually comes people who want to support them and their extracurriculars and stuff like that. So I have not received any backlash to my face, whether it's behind my back or not. I couldn't tell you, but we're going to get it done. And, I'm sure Clyde is going through the same things I'm already hearing about, how they're going to show up with their band, I think, at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon because bus routes and stuff like that. And so, we're finding an avenue or a place for their entire band to be, for the buses to then go back and then bring their team back. And
wow.
Everyone's got some problems. Everyone pushed them in the middle. You would probably just take your problems back. So we've had ours. We've got our solutions. And it's going to be go time on Friday night, 4:30.
So last question about this whole scenario. I have heard from a few Columbian fans that were a little bitter about the early start, saying, well, that's our stadium. Why do we get the early game and they get the late game? What went into who decided who gets the early and who gets the late game? Was there any kind of a coin flip maybe, or?
I don't know. I don't know who lost the arm wrestling contest. I was not present. I was not at the negotiation tables or whatever you want to call that process and everything. But when it was decided, okay, we're gonna both play at the same time, the same venue and the same night. Who's gonna play here and who's gonna play there. I have my opinions on things, but opinions are like, everyone's got one and they all stink sometimes. So there's no right, there's no wrong. It is what it is.
That's absolutely right. That's a great way to look at it, too. So let's talk a little bit about that Sandusky game last week. What a thriller. What a nail-biter. Talk about the end of that game, because obviously the big man rumbling for that first down, that's what everybody wants to talk about. I mean, that was the big play, but you still had to go down there and score. And then there was still another 40 yards to go before you had to score in that touchdown. So talk about what went into that last drive and then the stop at the end there.
Unique play, unique situation, scenario. And, one of my coaches late Friday night kind of just said, like, sometimes when you kind of get boring, he calls me boring, but which is ridiculous. But he said sometimes when you get kind of boring and you're talking about situational football and scenarios and you're teaching us some of that stuff, it can seem dry, but like that's why we do it. It kind of shed the light on it because we have like a 46 or 48 point or slide PowerPoint, which we go through the entire preseason over a couple sessions, and then on Thursdays we always do situation scenarios and change them up for the coach. And it's not just for the or not just for the players, but oftentimes for the coaches, understanding the situations and anticipating like what you would do in this situation and calls and or rulings and penalties and stuff like that. So,
And that was something that came up?
Yeah, oh yeah. We talked
really?
Punt and field goal are the most unique plays in high school football because of the rulings and the position of the ball, meaning like if you punt the ball and it's blocked behind the line of scrimmage, or they punt it and it goes 1 yard, as a defense you want to get the heck away from it because they've just punted it 1 yard, you'll gladly take the ball right there. Whereas if that ball is backwards behind the line, even 1/2 of a yard at all, you got to get on it and or tackle them if they grab it because that is a live ball fumble. We don't want them to get a first down, and obviously we would take it right there. We're trying to pick it up and stuff like that. And so, we stress that over and over, and that's what happens in a field goal situation in high school, college, and NFL too, as far as a field goal. A field goal, past the line of scrimmage is like a punt. You need to treat that like a punt, just like a blocked field goal is exactly like a blocked punt. It's a live ball situation. So long story short, we spend time coaching it, teaching it, and then it shows up, maybe in this case, one time in my lifetime thus far. But those things show up randomly, and it could show up in a big-time game at a big-time moment. And luckily, you see on film when it happened, our kid kind of picks it up because we always just teach that in a number of different ways. And right away, 2 kids, they knew it, like, go. Like, we got to – this is a live ball, go, go, go. And so they literally grab him and start taking him, and it, like, dawns on him, like, okay, we're rumbling here. Which then it shows up like why we do ball security on every Tuesday before practice with every player on our team. Every player on our team is going to know how to carry the football because when you have it, we got to keep it. And Bradley Willman, again, starting, right tackle possibly this week or whenever, and playing D-line, like he had the ball in his hands, and we needed him to keep the ball in his hands. And he had nice ball security with that sucker, nice high and tight.
Oh, yeah. Nobody was getting that ball out of there.
So what you do hopefully shows up on film. So long story short, that was, a big play at a big time. That, I would like to take some credit for, possibly, but probably not. And then, we had to finish it off, obviously. That's not the game. Everyone wants to point to that, but, that's not the game. We still needed to go 2.5 minutes, go 40 yards, find a way to score, and then hold them out. And so we were able to do that. So there was a lot of situational football that showed up in that fourth quarter, and there was another game on Saturday night that some situational stuff played out for. So,
Greggy, you remember that game? You know what game he's talking about? Saturday night? Was there a game Saturday night?
I don't think so.
No, you don't remember that?
No. Sorry.
I don't recall there being any football that was played on Saturday evening at all. I think you guys are crazy.
Gotcha. He was attending Mass, probably.
Yes, probably.
I was just about to say, you damn right. That kind of contradicts that.
All right, so that one, obviously, the game-winning drive was big, but situational football at the end of the game decided that game. Everybody wants to point fingers in that situation, but, Tom Brady went like this on what he thought was 4th down.
Oh, absolutely.
The best player in the world can do it.
Yep.
Don't point the finger at that kid. And then I was like, well, that scoreboard operator's probably going to get fired. And Zach made a good point. He's like, he's just a person doing a job,
Right.
He probably was waiting for a signal from a referee to change the down. So They can't do anything until they get a signal from the referee. So it's easy to want to point fingers in situations like that.
Absolutely.
But that's football.
You better have built-in answers, long story short. For example, when our I won't get into our philosophy and situational and stuff like that, but we have a built-in answer that should not happen. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But you got to coach it.
Yeah.
So.
That's exactly right. And it's when it really comes down to it, that's a call from the sideline, and it has to be somehow communicated to the field. And that's It's just it's an unfortunate situation, but hey, you'll take it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now on to Clyde. We're on to the Flyers this week. And this is a big matchup for you. We talked about all the circumstances and the weird scenario of it being a 4:30 game, but it's still a football game. Let's talk football. Now, I did have a couple of questions from some listeners here, or from some viewers here, and we'll get to those in just a minute. But I got some questions as well, Coach, because everybody wants to try to figure out what's going on with the defense. Everybody's like, what's going on? Why are they giving up so much yards? Why are they... I guess my point is nobody knows what goes into this. There's so much game planning, and you guys have played a meat grinder of a schedule so far. Mm-hmm. You've played some of the best teams in Division III in the state of Ohio to this point. And you look at every one of the teams in your region right now, there's not one with a losing record. Think about that. I mean, every team in Region 10 right now is 3-3 or above.
Wow.
All 20 teams. So you are playing some top-notch talent week in and week out. I mean, can you kind of put the fans at ease a little bit here with, I mean, they're kids, right? I mean, you got to understand
I don't have
that
any
these are some
20-year-olds out
parents'
there.
kids out here. These are not professional football players. And so, I mean,
let's just say,
I just wanted to preface some of these questions with that. Like, you guys got to remember, this is high school football. This isn't professional football. So, before we get into any,
and even they give up some points. I think who was
70?
it? Gave up 70. So.
Woo!
Unless you're on the Browns defense.
Listen, you give me the Browns defense, I can call that too. They're really good, but I think Jim Schwartz is pretty smart.
He's a good guy. But no,
let's just say if they would do, meaning if our defense would do exactly what they were supposed to coach or coached up to do, they would be pretty successful. The problem is, they're kids.
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
Shiny objects and do stuff, and no, there's excuses, and that's all they are, is excuses in a lot of ways, and we tell the kids that. And we're playing a lot of different guys at different times. We've been banged up on that side of the ball, more so than on the other side a little bit, but that's still no excuse. Yeah, we got to improve things. We got to get better in a lot of different ways. In every game, you take away a couple of the plays, and it's a completely different script as far as the points go, but you can't take them away. Yeah. So you got to start taking them away in the games, and I expect us to start turning the tide in a lot of ways on that side of the football, but proof's got to be in the pudding, so we'll see.
And, Coach, one thing that kind of stands out when I look at some of these stats, you are outscoring your opponents in every quarter except for the first. Right now, you're being outscored 65-27 in the first quarter. What has to change over these next 4 games and going into the playoffs so your offense isn't routinely trying to dig themselves out of a hole in the second half or in the second quarter and leading on into the game?
A lot of it was probably playing good offenses and starting on. I think we started on defense in every game except one this year. So you're going to get more possessions in the first quarter, most likely, compared to what you're getting. So just by pure data and stats points, when they get it 2 times, you get it once, or they get it 3 and you get it twice, points are going to be more so on that side of the ball. But I think just coming out and executing the game plan early on the defense side of the ball and playing good complementary football for the offensive side as well. Like I said, we're working on it. I promise you that. Our kids know that, and they're a prideful bunch too. The coaches are a prideful bunch. Their kids are a prideful bunch, and they're they're not happy. They're definitely upset with it too, because they want to go out and show what we have and show the work that they put in. And like I said, it's going to be proof in the pudding here. Hopefully, the next couple weeks, get healthy and get some guys back, and get some guys who cut their teeth a little bit now, playing more significant time possibly, and we'll see.
And that's the key. When you start getting some of these healthy guys back, you think about the experience that those kids got when they came in to play for those guys that were out. Now those are rotational guys you can bring in, and you trust them to be able to fill those roles when you need them to in the middle of a game, or you need those guys to, you need your starters to come off and get a breather. Now you can trust those guys to come in for a little longer than what you would have at the beginning of the season, because you know what they're capable of. So it's something that you can kind of hang your hat on as you get later into the season. But you're absolutely right. I feel like once you guys start getting a little bit more healthy and you start getting everybody back together, this defensive unit, I really think you haven't seen the best of this team yet. When it comes to the defensive side of the ball, we've seen some explosive offensive plays, but I really feel like with the opportunistic way this defense plays the game, you're going to see a really different, a tough TC defense here in these next 4 games. Especially, like you said, once you start getting some of these guys healthy, it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this question I got from Ryan Wilson here. He says, TC defense has allowed most yards in the SBC Lake. He says, you can't seem to find a way to set the edge or stop the sweep sometimes. Do you have a plan and the players needed to tie up the loose ends, stop Clyde and Perkins from having big yardage, and to make a deep run in the playoffs? I think you got a plan, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a plan there.
Yeah. You put together a plan, and you want to take away what the opposition does, to their strengths, right? And certain teams do certain things better than others, and so therefore you try to eliminate or neutralize their strength in a number of ways. And sometimes that's with players and personnel. Sometimes that's with scheme. And so we feel like we're continuing to move some parts in places and not make drastic changes and not flinch, because there's some of that, like not hitting the panic button and flushing everything for any purpose, and changing everything and having them learn entirely new assignments and stuff like that. But every team's a little bit different, and Sandusky was really, really good at running outside zone, pin pull action, and getting the ball on the perimeter. And we did a really good job executing that early in the game for a number of reasons, and then gave up some big ones at some bad times, and it was, again, something or someone on those 3 plays that all went the distance, and we can't do that. Can't do that in big games.
That's a great point. So this Clyde defense, talk about this defense. This is a defense that likes to they like to turn the ball over. 10 turnovers on the season so far, 7 interceptions through the air. They are the leading pass defense in the SBC Lake so far. They've allowed under 600 yards through the air. What is the plan? Obviously, you're not going to give me the whole game plan, but how do you think you need to attack this team this Friday?
Again, identifying their scheme and their personnel, who they have on that side of the ball, and any weak parts that they may have, or what they're asking their guys in the secondary to do schematically, and then it's got to align with the front too, and what they're doing, from a pass rush standpoint or a pass drop standpoint from the linebackers. And so every defense has holes somewhere, and so you need to either expose and attack those or create them. And so we always want to stay balanced throughout the course of a game, just so teams can't tee off on you, pass-wise or rush-wise and run-wise, and I feel like we've done that, week in and week out. There's been some games we literally have been, like, right down the middle of the entire game, and then there's been, like, back-to-back games where we had to throw it a ton to win one and then ran it down the throat of another person to win it. So throughout the course of the year, I haven't looked recently at the stats, but, as long as we can continue to do that when we need to, that's going to be really big.
Yeah, and you got the leading rusher in the SBC Lake, one of the top running backs in the state of Ohio, as far as I'm concerned. Talk about his impact on the game. So, 966 yards through 6 games is just, that's unreal. But 16 touchdowns, obviously 7 touchdowns in one night's a good night, but 16 on the season so far. Talk about his impact on the game and how defenses have to respect him and how that kind of opens up the passing game for you guys.
Yeah, he's a tough runner. You don't get a whole lot like him. He's really tough between the tackles and a tough runner for not being a big, bulky, power back or what you would consider a power back. But he also obviously has the speed and agility in the open field and on the edge to make guys miss, run through arm tackles. But also, if he's got a seam, he's really fast, and so he can take it the distance at any time, and so that makes you hold your breath if you're obviously on defense every single time he touches it. So he's one of the best, in my opinion, around right now, and really, when it's all said and done, I think it'll kind of write a pretty cool story for him.
So last week we named our MST player of the game, the Little Hugo's player of the game. We gave it to AJ Hickman last week, and this is a young man that's really put together a solid season. But you've had a number of defensive players really step up this year. Talk about the defense. Everybody wants to talk about the yardage they've given up, but when they need to make a stop, this defense has made multiple big-time stops this year. Just talk about some of the leaders on the defensive side of the ball this year.
AJ's had a great game. Last game came out with a big pick when we had him kind of deep in their territory. Got the first turnover of the game when we were down a score. We had some momentum. We were down 2 scores at one time, and then went and scored to put us down 1 score, and then turned around and he got an interception, which was big. and kind of got us definitely back in the game from a mentality standpoint and momentum standpoint. And he's been moved around. He's a kid in our defense throughout his career. He's played corner, he's played safety, now he's at outside linebacker right now. But we feel like, he's a very savvy kid, very smart kid, smart football player. And obviously has had some big games and big moments already, and really proud of him being a senior leader on that unit and doing a great job. And he's one of many guys who have shown up at big times on that side of the football on defense. And some guys have been banged up and getting them back, and some guys we should get back here shortly. And so kind of moving parts around consistently. And I'm excited with everyone's kind of shown up in different ways in different games.
So Talib went down a couple weeks ago. Is he on the mend? Is he coming back soon? We think
should be back soon.
Okay.
Kind of day to day right now, and don't want any regression in what he was dealing with and what he's dealing with. And as long as he kind of continues to progress, good chance we'll see him out there.
Good deal. Yeah. All right, Coach, any final thoughts here before I let you go? We still have Calvert coach Steve Reeser is going to join me on the phone here after this. But any final thoughts? Anything you want to say to Tornado Nation?
Nope. Just thankful as always for you guys, showing up and all the coverage for those out there in Tornado Nation. Not maybe in our backyard of Tiffin or in Columbus when we went there, or some people, they really like that we're traveling all over the heck. All over the damn place trying to get a game, and they appreciate that because that's some of their hometowns, being down in Columbus or out near River Valley and stuff like that. But I kind of like being at home, so it's going to be nice here the next couple weeks. And so if you can't come to the game, tune in. But, always appreciate the support of all of our fans in the community and tradition that many have been a part of.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to change over between games. That's what I want to see how this is going to work. All the team's fans leaving, and the next game's fans coming in. I've seen it at basketball tournaments before, and it's not always a graceful process. So
from what I was communicated, if you come to our game, that ticket is still good for the following game.
Yeah, I saw that. They said one ticket's good for both games. I think they just asked that the fans move out of the center section.
Correct.
To make room for the Calvert fans afterwards.
If you're a Columbian fan and at the game and everything and sticking around for the second game, they asked them to kind of give Calvert some first dibs at the center section and that sort of thing. And obviously we will welcome any Calvert fan at our game if they want to come out and see us live and in person, because they probably don't get many chances. We'd love to have them out, and because a lot of these kids are friends, you know what I mean? It's a close community, and same thing with parents. I know a ton of families, obviously, with Calvert ties, with currently or in the past and stuff, and they're good people too, despite what some people think. But
we're all good people. If we're Tiffinites, we're good people.
That's right. That's right. God's country out here.
That's right. All right, Coach, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much once again. Tiffin Columbian head football coach Judd Lutz, once again on the Coach's Corner. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. I'm going to get Steve Reeser connected here on the phone, and then we'll come back. We'll have a quick conversation with him, and we'll wrap things up here at Benchwarmers. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. You're watching the Coach's Corner on Heart of Ohio Sports. All right, and we're back here on the Coach's Corner, live at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery, and I have Tiffin Calvert head football coach Steve Reeser on the line with me. How are we doing, Coach?
I'm doing great, man. How are you, Nate?
Doing great, man. Doing great. So, obviously, you're not here with us, but we thank you for being on the show with us. Thank you for spending some time with us. I know you're a little under the weather right now, but, I mean, I can't thank you enough for taking a little bit of time out of your day to spend some time with us and allow us to sit under the learning tree a little bit here, you know?
Hey, like I said, obviously, we appreciate it. I would have given a lot to be there tonight. Like I told you earlier, I didn't mean to ruin anything tonight.
No.
Probably just not the best way to be sitting next to any of you guys for too long right now. So, anyway, like I said, we appreciate what you guys do for us always. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Absolutely. All right, Coach. So, big week this week as you got homecoming coming up on Friday. But let's talk about last week because that was a little bit obviously disappointing for you guys. But you can only control what you can control. You can only control what's in front of you. And, you got a bye week last week in the middle of the season. Now, obviously, you don't want that. But how did you could obviously take advantage of that. How did you guys take advantage of that bye week last week, even though you didn't really want it?
Right. Well, it was different than normal bye weeks, obviously. And I don't even know if there's such thing as a normal bye week. I was, kind of talking to Matt and I yesterday a little bit, but, a normal bye week in D7 football in Ohio doesn't happen very often. You know what I mean? But even this one, if there was such a thing since COVID or whatever else is scheduling, they've obviously happened. Last week was a little bit different just because we didn't know it was a bye week until Friday afternoon. So we were, at full intent of playing. We had a good week of practice under our belt, which I think almost, to be honest, nobody's happy. I don't think that we didn't play, obviously, on Friday night. But I am happy with the practice week that we had because rather than a traditional bye week, we actually, and I don't mean normally I guess with a bye week, you probably start working on the next opponent 2 weeks early, get healthy, all that. We had full game mode all last week, ready to play on Friday. So it wasn't like, even though we didn't play, it wasn't a week off. It was a week to prepare for a team, just like we have every other week, to make sure our young men understand the scheme, to make sure we're getting better every day. And so, again, that we didn't play on Friday wasn't, obviously fun. But the week up to Friday night was a pretty good week of practice, and we were happy with that. Friday, tough to tell young men who work hard that they don't get to compete on Friday night, obviously. Yeah. But at the same time, you have to, like you said, there's only so many things you can control. We have to respect St. Joe, whoever it is, wishes, and that it sounds like they were battling some pretty tough illness, and it was probably best for their team not to play. So we respect that and understand that. It's just one of those things in life where, like it or not, you have to accept it. So that's what our young men did pretty well. I think that obviously after the weekend we've come back and started a new week, and I think our focus is in the right direction right now. So we're pretty happy where we're at, even though we didn't get to play Friday, and I think they handled it pretty well as a team.
So this question is from Josh Morgret. He wanted to know, what's the toughest part of a bye week, especially when it's not expected? Like, what is the toughest part for you as a coach?
Well, again, and not to reiterate or beat a dead horse, so I guess if we would have known it was a bye week, the toughest part, I think, at our level, is to maintain that high level of energy and focus at practice when you have a 10, 14-day span without playing a football game. Even if it's the NFL and you go from Thursday night to a Monday night or something, that's a long time, So, rather than a traditional bye week where we didn't have to fill that gap, without intent, I guess, if you will, and I don't know if that makes sense, but I was glad that with the bye week that we ended up having, that we did focus on an opponent and had a traditional week of practice. So I don't think it's a bye week of normal circumstances. And like I said, I liked our week of practice, and I'm glad that even though we didn't get to play, we had a focus for last Friday night.
Absolutely, Coach. So, big game against Margaretta this Friday. Talk about the Polar Bears. This is a team that I think, when most people think about Margaretta, they've had a couple down years here recently, but this is a team that I think some people might be overlooking this year. This is a damn good team this year.
I mean, maybe they've had down years, but it never seems like when we play them, they seem very down.
Exactly.
Last year they were
up. Always a good matchup.
Last year over there, I think they were up 17-0 early. We've had some battles with them. I know that it kind of goes back and forth there, but we've had some good games with Margaretta. They always have very tough, competitive kids. They always have nice size, especially up front. Now their linebacking crew and obviously all the coach they have over there, Quizno, they're doing a great job of coaches, and there's no doubt that they're going to give us all that we can handle on Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. So this Margaretta team coming into this game has only allowed 6 points in the first quarter all season long. What do you guys need to do to get on the scoreboard early?
Well, obviously we're just hoping to become more efficient on the offensive side of the ball. We're looking to come out and obviously be a well-rounded football team. Hopefully we keep growing and, play good offense, good defense, and good special teams. But, we're not looking to do anything crazy. We're looking to try and get better on the defensive side to maybe shut down a little bit of a run game. They have some really good outside receivers. They've been struggling a little bit, not struggling, but they've had a little change at quarterback because of some injury. They got a really nice running back and number 24. So we got to work cut on the defense, and we feel if we can do that, continue to on offense to run the ball effectively, to set up some other plays and get that ground game going and give ourselves a chance to have a little bit of a ball control or clock control offense at times. Will be our maybe at times be a better defense for us than our actual defense, even though we're very proud with what they've been doing. Just like you guys know, a lot of times your best defense sometimes is just ball control and offense. So hopefully, again, on offense, we do some good things and just continue to have great work out of our guys up front. I think you guys have mentioned already, we're pretty fortunate to have some nice running backs that we can give the ball to. So we're just looking to get better. We're looking to get better up front to continue to match up with what different teams give us on the interior defensive box look, and hopefully we can block well and break off some runs, and if nothing else, at least get 4 to 5 yards of pop and keep moving the ball.
Yeah, and that's a game plan right there, Coach. So it's kind of a mirror image when you look at both these teams. You're both scoring a lot of points in the first quarter, but not giving up a lot. And so something's got to give this Friday. One of you guys is going to have either that or it's going to be a defensive stalwart, and we're not going to have any score in the first quarter.
Right. Well, I'm going to be very honest with you. Hopefully, I feel like I do plenty of research and plenty of homework, but I don't even know the score breakdown. For us or for them. Obviously, I have those stats. And I guess maybe don't pay enough attention to them. I just hopefully that no matter if it's first quarter or second quarter, we get out there, our young men start to settle in on both sides of the ball, and again, whether it's first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, hopefully at some point we just begin to overtake the game and kind of like I said, hopefully show some dominance and some toughness and some grit, and that's our goal. Again, whenever it happens, we'll try and be patient enough to not get risky with offensive play calls, stick to our game plan and go from there. This, like you obviously are aware, this Friday is going to be a little bit tricky anyway with all the things going on with the awesome doubleheader with Columbian playing, us playing in the same night. So, there's always something going on, it seems like. So this just be one of those things where our young men get to adapt and overcome.
That's a great point, Coach. It's a good opportunity to overcome adversity, and that's what builds character. Football is a game that it reveals character. It doesn't really build it, but these opportunities like this within the season are great opportunities to just find out about yourself. And I think you're going to find out a lot about both teams this Friday. You talk about this Margaretta team. They've got a great defense. This defense has really they've kind of limited a lot of high-powered offenses to lower numbers than what they're used to putting up. They limited that. They shut out Hopewell Loudon in the second half the other night, and that was one thing that kind of stood out to me. What do you guys think you're going to need to do to be effective? Obviously, a balanced attack is what you guys have been bringing to the table all year. You're kind of leaning on that offensive line. You guys have got a great unit up front. What do you guys think you need to do this Friday to be successful against this Margaretta defense?
Continue to be patient and continue to be unselfish. On the offensive side of the ball, obviously we've done some things. We've got some good players. This is some of the play calls come down to the players that we have and what we've been able to do. Obviously, you know what I mean. So we're very fortunate with who we put on the field across the board on both sides of the ball right now. So I think ours is just to be patient and be unselfish, like I said, because obviously numbers and stats and those things are all great, and a lot of people look at those. Those are in the paper. That's how people get awards at the end of the season and all that. But those are personal awards that people get. We're looking to to win the game, no matter if it's 3-0, 7-6, or 42-24. As long as we win this contest, that's what our goal is, and that's where we stay patient, selfish, keep playing for each other, and we'll see what happens in 48 minutes of football.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Well, obviously, this is a unique situation we talked with Judd a little bit about the early game for them, but with you guys, it's a little bit later of a start. You're going to be starting under the lights, obviously. So is there anything different that goes into this for you guys? Because it says an 8 o'clock start time, but we both know that might not be official because who knows how long that first one's going to go. What different is it? How different is it for you guys getting ready for this one?
Well, I think most of the difference will be, the warm-ups, whether we have to start warming up at our facility and get down to the field and kind of finish there. It'll be most of the pregame stuff because, I know that our guys that are playing the game right now might be a little young. Back in the day, games didn't start till 8 o'clock anyway. Then we went to 7:30, and now we're at 7. But, the other thing is, when we didn't start, a week earlier in the fall or almost the summer now, at some point our game is going to start under the lights anyway. So all these guys have already been on the field without sunshine, with those lights blaring on them. So obviously we're ready for that. And I think most of the things we're going to have to overcome are some of the routines that a lot of teams go through in the pregame scenario, which is what we're going to have to adjust a little bit, make sure that we keep our guys on point, keep our like I said, mental toughness, make sure we're mature enough to do what we got to do and have a great game plan as far as how we're going to do it. Yeah. So as long as everybody's aware of the kind of things we're going to do and they know up front and beforehand what we can expect, I think we'll be just fine.
Good point, Coach. So you got a three-headed monster in that Margaretta backfield with Kane Smetzer, Judah Keller, and Jordan Luzader. I mean, they really kind of have a very balanced attack. You don't really know who's going to be the primary ball carrier on any night because they don't want you to know. What do you guys do during the preparations for this to kind of prepare for this multi-headed attack?
Well, I don't mean to say that we treat them like any other team, but we always try to be fully prepared every week. So, this might be a different beast, but they're not receivers. Maybe it's, it's a little Gibsonburg, maybe it's, more Monroeville, whatever, I guess. But the point is we're hoping that after, a couple good days of practice that we defensively understand how to align correctly. And once we get to our alignment, that we can see the guys in front of us and understand our responsibility. So that's been something so far that our defensive guys have done great at, understanding when we have to do some shifting, moving around to make sure we get ourselves in good position. And I really feel, when we put ourselves in the right position, I think our young men can play some football and give us a chance to win. So, again, we just have to make sure we align right and keep playing physical football up front. Be wary of the one-man routes that are great out of Margaretta, and always watch out for that double move.
So, Coach, I know a lot of times, when we talk about player of the game at the end of the game, we give out that little Hugo's gift card. By the way, I still have to give you Carter Wolf's gift card. I have it in my book bag. I got to give it to you. All good. But when we talk about player of the game, a lot of times it's just these, the guys who stand out are the ones, carrying the ball or, on defense, maybe they make a big play to kind of stand out. But what has really stood out to me this year for your team in particular is that Big Blue Wrecking Crew. That team, that front has been absolutely mauling people all season long. Talk about that front unit that you have. I mean, is this the best offensive line you've had here at Calvert?
Well, I mean, obviously, we've had some good lines. I mean, this is the biggest, and they've been playing very well so far. And they have some good running backs and, a three-year quarterback and good receivers surrounding them. So, again, I think this is a total team effort. I love the nickname, obviously. But, that's something they're going to have to, if you nickname yourself that or whoever did it, because that's something that obviously we enjoy and we love we love it that they, that they're doing well. But if we're going to start getting called that, they better make sure that we keep doing our thing up front. You know what I mean? So, again, that's one of those things where, hey, if they're going to call themselves that, that's great, but we've got to live up to that name.
That's right.
It's kind of like being Calvert Seneca. You can't be one without having some heart. So, but at the same time, they're doing a good job up front. I'm not, telling anybody. Any coach or any football fan listening knows that you go where your line goes on both sides of the game. It doesn't matter if it's offense or defense. If those linemen up front can play together and continue to give guys that can get the ball in their hands looks, that makes everything easier. We told the team a couple weeks ago, if you want to keep having second and 4 on offense, that's great. That makes things kind of easy to call. You know what I mean? It's the 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12 and stuff that kind of make things tough. But no, those young men up front have done an outstanding job. Again, the best line, I'm not like making fun of anybody. That's hard to say because every team's so different. But we are so pumped about what that line's doing with the team around them that we're, like I said, we're stoked and we're excited and just have to make sure we take it one play at a time, one game at a time.
That's absolutely right, Coach. All right, so 5-0 on the season, looking to go 6-0 this Friday against Margaretta. What's your any final thoughts here for Calvert Nation, for Seneca Nation?
Well, obviously, we got a big week going on this week with the centennial celebration of Calvert High School being 100 years. We got the doubleheader. We got alumni weekend. We got homecoming. A lot of stuff going on. So we just hope that, as the football game, that all this is, not all this, but a lot of things are surrounded by, that we can, have some fans down there to watch how hard our young men work and give them a hell of a show to watch, and then show them what the Calvert Seneca's football team is doing these days.
Absolutely. And I know there's a lot of Calvert fans that are looking forward to this one. It's a great weekend. It's an action-packed night at Frost County Stadium. Come on out and join us. If you can't, you can always tune in here on the broadcast. But I encourage you, go down to the stadium and check this out, because this is a unique experience you're probably never going to see again. So they tell me that one ticket is good for both games. So if you're a Calvert fan, you want to come down and watch Columbian early, you can stick around for the Calvert game afterwards. It's the same ticket is good for the whole day. So, Coach, once again, I can't thank you enough for your time tonight. Any shout-outs you want to give here?
No, like I said, well, shout out to you and your crew. Obviously, we appreciate what you guys do. Obviously, not only on tonight's show, but just the look that you've given high school football and high school sports in the air the last few years, especially this year. You guys just keep stepping up your game at Heart of Ohio. I know a lot of people watch it, and I know that it's good for our young student athletes to be able to have that kind of encouragement out of people who may not be able to make it to the game. So good luck to you guys. Keep going and doing a great job. Besides that, all I got to say is go Blue, go Senecas, go Tornadoes. Let's go 2-0 on Friday night.
There you go. That's a great talk right there from Coach. Thank you so much once again for your time, Coach. Appreciate you as always. All right, and that's going to do it for us here tonight on the Coach's Corner, live here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. I want to thank Greg the Wizard Kinn for hanging in there with us. A full hour show here tonight, Greg. Man, how'd you make it through?
I mean, listening to these guys talk is always enjoyable, though, honestly.
I know. Honestly, it felt like 15 minutes with these two. I love interviewing these guys.
I was going to say, the only thing I didn't get a chance to say to Coach Reeser that I was going to say, but I didn't know whether or not I should mention this or not, but I'll leave some names out of the situation. But I was going to say, when it comes to that line and how good of a job they're doing this year, I know me and you have both seen some very close personal on-the-field type footage where there was some talk going on about the game that evening, and the one guy said, they keep saying that they're holding them, but they're not. They're just kicking the crap out of them.
Yeah, that's going to be some juicy footage that we debut at a later date.
That just kind of shows you how good their job they're doing so far this year. So.
Yeah. Once again, thank you to Tiffin Columbian head football coach Judd Lutz for coming on with us tonight. Thanks to Amy Lutz for sitting out here with us as well, his wife. And also thank you to Coach Steve Reeser for coming on the show with us. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you made it this far, help us out. Share the video. Like, follow, subscribe. That all helps. But please share the video, as it helps us reach a whole new audience. All right, for Greg Kinn, I'm Nate Mullins, signing off here on the Coach's Corner, live at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. You've been watching Heart of Ohio Sports.